My husband has a brother, 46, who recently had his house burned down to complete ash. Nothing was salvageable. He didn't have insurance. I'm a stay-at-home mom to 3 kids. Our youngest is rowdy as heck. He's currently being tested for ADHD. We allow brother-in-law to stay here despite me hating this guy. He's been here a week and hasn't returned to work because he's too depressed. My husband works 12 to 16-hour days, depending on the job that day, and is gone a lot, leaving me to deal with the brother-in-law day in and day out. He's currently staying in the guest room. For the past 2 days, he's been making comments. Every time I sit down, he comments about me being lazy. He's laughing when he says it. Clearly, he thinks he's making some sort of great joke. Honestly, I'm not sure if it makes me angry because I already hate him, but the tip of the iceberg definitely hit full force today. My son is off the walls and just being a handful in general, and my brother-in-law keeps making comments to him and telling him to calm down, be quiet, will you shut up, or even following my son around outdoors, telling him he's a brat. I tell him to stop multiple times, and he stops speaking to my son at all. I then go to make my kids lunch, and brother-in-law comes out and says, "Where's mine?" I tell him he's a grown man who can cook his own food. He goes, "Ain't you the woman of the house?" I ignore it. But then my husband comes home on his lunch break, and he tells my husband, "She ain't much of a womanly type, is she? Couldn't even make me lunch." Again, says it while laughing and trying to be funny. But I've had it at this point and told him to get the heck out of my house. He looks completely blindsided, as if he hasn't been purposely pushing my buttons all day with my kid or me in general. My husband, who already was given the rundown on a "one more thing and he's gone," did back me. He's also spoken to brother-in-law about the comments, but it's always a, "She can't even take a joke, I was just playing." Brother-in-law says, "I ain't got nowhere to go." So I told him to go live on the street with the garbage for all I care. He takes off. I told my husband under no circumstances was he welcome back here with his misogynistic comments and trying to parent my kid. He thinks I may be taking this too far due to how much I already hated the guy, and given the fact that I'm currently 30 weeks pregnant and already irritable, and says he feels bad because his brother has nothing right now. So, am I the idiot for kicking my brother-in-law out of my house? Not the idiot. Brother-in-law was warned that his comments are not appreciated. That was his chance to keep his mouth shut and be a bearable house guest. He's in your house all day and being a complete idiot. Don't let anyone tell you pregnancy is clouding your judgment here. I'm a man and definitely not pregnant, and I also would have kicked him out of my house. So, OP's lazy while he's too depressed to find work, but still has the energy and emotional strength to walk around making crappy comments, jokes, to a pregnant mother of 3 and her kids. Yeah, screw that guy. You don't get to come and live in my house and spend all day insulting me. Talk about biting the hand that feeds you. OP, there's helping out someone in need and being completely taken for granted. Really glad your husband backed you up here. Your brother-in-law should have been nothing but grateful, helpful, and extremely considerate of you and your family. He chose otherwise and now is reaping the natural consequences of his actions. She ain't much of a womanly type, is she? Couldn't even make me lunch. Gee, I can't possibly imagine why he's single, LOL. She missed the perfect opportunity to call him out using his same mindset. Hey, where's my sandwich? Well, if a man doesn't work. LMAO, the look on his face would have been payment enough. If your husband is having any kind of doubts, remind him that your children are all watching how he treats you and are internalizing those messages, and further, the stress he's putting you under and the effects that could have on your pregnancy. He got himself kicked out. So we have 2 new foster placements. Jess, tween female, and Alice, teen female. We also have a biological daughter, Valerie, a young teen. We live in a 3-bedroomed house, and at this time it's not possible to add more room. We do plan on moving eventually, but that's not something that will happen for a year minimum. In our county, siblings can share a room, bio and foster. The only condition is non-bio siblings of the opposite gender can't share a room, which isn't an issue here. We try to do what we can to make the siblings comfortable, but recently Alice said at their home she has her own room and she hates sharing. We've tried to divide it with curtains, privacy panels, etc. We've let Alice get a lot of personalised stuff for her room, but it's a struggle. She's requested her own room. The other issue is Valerie set a boundary when we started fostering 2 years ago that she wouldn't share her room. We agreed as it seemed reasonable. She's always great with the other kids in her home, but also deserves her own space to decompress. She went from being an only child to having other children in the home. We also make sure we get a lot of one-on-one time with her and still do stuff as a family. She knows she can talk to us about anything. We did ask her about Jess sharing her room, and obviously she said no. We explained this to Alice, and now she's upset, saying it's unfair. We feel conflicted. Our social worker backs us up, but some people in our personal life say we're in the wrong. Other relevant info. We have yet to determine exactly how long girls will be with us, but the current plan is 10 months minimum, with the likelihood it could be longer. So it's not as if the girls would only share a room for a few weeks. Edit, per guidelines, the children must live in a room with permanent walls, a door that closes, have their own dressers, etc. That wouldn't be possible in the living room, so no one could sleep there. I also can't give up my room, as it's stated that all living in the house must have rooms. The room is also big enough for the two. It's the house's master and fits all their stuff, leaving enough room for them to feel separate. Not the idiot. Why would Alice be more entitled to her own room than Valerie? That's Valerie's home. Like it or not, foster kids may not stay with you long. It's important to make them feel at home and as part of the family, but that can't be at the expense of your children. It also shows that you will keep to promises you made to your daughter. It's Alice's home too, since the family chose to house her and gets paid for it. I totally understand where she's coming from. She just wants some normalcy, and a mid-teen sharing a room with a twin sibling would be incredibly difficult. A 5-year difference at that age is enormous. This doesn't sound like an ideal placement for these girls personally. Do everything you can to make this easier on them. LMAO, you really think people who are actually fostering correctly and not neglecting their foster kids, which it seems like OP and her family does, actually make money off of fostering? The stipend people get is often barely enough to cover the child's needs, and families often eat the cost of other living expenses out of the kindness of their own hearts. No idiots here. Unfortunately, this is a no-win situation. You absolutely cannot renege on your agreement with Valerie. You will shatter her trust in you, and this will cause huge problems down the road. My wife's mother did foster when she was 12, and she's still traumatized by how she got treated. Alice isn't an idiot for wanting her own room, but it's just not possible. The world gave her a rough hand, and she's going to have to learn to deal. I'm glad you're doing what you can to give them private spaces, but sharing a room isn't the end of the world. I survived sharing with 3 siblings. I, male 46, have a brother 47, and he has a daughter, nearly adult. My brother and I had a rough childhood and were pretty wild in our teens and early 20s. We did stuff most people wouldn't want their kids to know about, which is understandable. Well, last night I was over at my brother's. My niece was visibly upset. I asked what was up. Well, my niece ended up getting her nose pierced without telling either my brother or sister-in-law, her mom. While her mom wasn't mad, my brother was mad. Where we live, you can get most piercings without parental consent at 16. It was just a simple nostril piercing, a tiny stud barely noticeable, honestly. My niece is a very good kid, gets amazing grades and is kind and respectful. Honestly, this is probably the most bad thing she's done. Well, like I said, my brother is mad about the nose piercing, saying he doesn't want to see that on her face. And my niece was trying to argue that it's not permanent, so he shouldn't care because she could always take it out in the future. It's not a forever thing. Well, I wasn't thinking and said you don't really have room to talk, considering you had your nipples pierced. My niece's mouth dropped and she said that just made him a hypocrite for getting upset she had her nose pierced. My brother said I'm the biggest idiot for outing him to his daughter, saying that was something he didn't want her to know about. I wasn't really thinking and just said it because that's what I was personally thinking. Now bro isn't talking to me. So, am I the idiot? LOL, not the idiot. You did the job of a good uncle. Your brother is indeed a hypocrite, and your niece is more than old enough to decide to get a piercing on her own. Exactly. Wahaha, busted. This is the kind of stuff uncles are made for. Literally, my favourite part of having a nibbling is telling them all the crap their mom and dad got up to when they were younger that kids had no idea about. As an uncle, it's your job to rat your brother out at every opportunity. Yeah, also, what the heck is about him not wanting people to know about his old piercing? It's literally just a piercing. Who cares? Are they super religious or something? A niece does what she wants with her own body. He doesn't get to police that. Daughter doesn't mean property. As a person with a dad who lied about everything he did to protect me, I think it was fine to tell her. I, 30 female, am a preschool teacher. I love my students and truly enjoy what I do. However, I also have CPTSD and get overstimulated. I'm in therapy for both mental and sensory. While I'm fine in the classroom, I really depend on my lunch hour paired with nap time to decompress. I don't drive, so I can't go anywhere on my break, and there's nowhere around I can go chill. I sit in the lounge with noise-cancelling earbuds. Most colleagues see that and take it as a sign, unless there's a fire or someone's dying, leave me alone. I can't go to my classroom as my kids are still there. It's 90+ degrees outside. There are no other rooms that don't have kids. This is the only place I can go. However, there's one colleague, Sandra, 50s, who just cannot take the hint. She'll tap me on the shoulder to talk about little things or gossip, and sometimes shows me pictures of her family or cat. I did eventually tell her, "Hey, I appreciate needing this time to decompress, so unless it's urgent, please leave me alone." She said okay. She got a little better, but recently started up again. I tried to remind her, but she just sort of brushed me off. Yesterday was especially rough. I had 2 new students, and they were really struggling with the transition. I really needed my break. I sat in the lounge, put my earbuds in, and played my favorite music. I also began scrolling through social media. Tap, tap, tap. I look up, and Sandra's asking me about my day, which is clearly just a way for her to talk about herself. I politely smile and say I'm not available to talk right now. I go back to my own thing. 5 minutes later, tap, tap, tap. I ripped out my bud and asked, "What?" She said, "I want to show you pictures of my granddaughter." I said, "I don't care about your family, please just leave me alone." She got very upset. A few people in the lounge gave me a dirty look. I'm sure some will ask, I don't know if she has autism or is neurodivergent in another form. At this point, I'm unsure why it matters, as I am also neurodivergent. So I guess it's a debate about whose needs come first. Hers to talk non-stop, or mine for needing some time to decompress. That's even if she's neurodivergent, which again, I have no way of knowing and isn't my business. Some feel I'm wrong for how I handled it. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You're within your rights to say no to people trying to interact with you. You then told her no in a polite manner. However, a polite no wasn't clear enough for her, and she proceeded to try harder. Thus, you needed to resort to a less polite but more clear no. You would be an idiot if you didn't tell her no politely before, but you did. Exactly this. I'm like OP, neurodivergent, and I need my break time to decompress. I also get super overstimulated. I'm a nurse and I love my job. However, it's very people-y and noisy and full of interesting sights and smells. I rely on my break to reset my brain. I literally seek out dark, empty spaces to take my break in. Also, being neurodivergent isn't a free pass to bother someone who has explicitly asked to be left alone. You're not expecting her to pick up on subtle social clues. You told her, and she's choosing to bother you anyway. Yep, she had it coming. Your needs come first, and she absolutely doesn't need to show you pictures of her grandkids. Also, if there are other people in the lounge, why isn't she bugging them? Just try to keep your cool. I, female 27, live about a block from my parents. They help me buy my house and they are awesome. They also babysit for my brother and his wife all the time. However, when they're not available, my sister-in-law will bring her kids, tween, pre-tween, young grammar school, to my house since I work from home. I've tried repeatedly explaining that I'm working and she refuses to understand. My parents aren't her biggest fans either, but they've begged me to humour her, so I allow it. They're good kids and I love them, but I also don't enforce her rules on them. Nope, sorry, I don't have organic fruit juice. I have Coke, Mountain Dew and Red Bull, or you can drink tap water. Do you want avocado with an egg on rye? Well, I have potato skins from Costco. What the heck are vegetales? My TV has Netflix, Prime and Disney. Watch whatever you want. She gets mad at me for not following her rules for her kids, but she keeps dropping them off. My brother says I'm being an idiot for not just doing what they want, so I told him I would if they A. paid me to watch their kids, B. supplied whatever their kids were supposed to eat, drink and watch. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Buy an espresso machine and teach the kids to use it. That's a joke, mostly. But seriously, you're not hiding these things from your brother and sister-in-law. They are choosing to continue dropping their kids off knowing the situation. They clearly care more about free childcare than they do about organic fruit juice. Honestly, expecting someone who's working to take care of 3 young children is just crazy to me. Like, how is OP supposed to take care of the kids properly and still not be affected at work? You gave them the perfect answer. You bring what you want them to eat, you bring what you want them to watch. I'm working and I'm here in case of an emergency, and you brought them here without my consent or permission and expect me to take work time to cook and monitor their screens? If you mention it again, unattended people will be given espresso and a puppy. No. So much easier to give a kid a bag of harmonicas, kazoos and/or slide whistles. Every time the parents throw one out, the kiddo can grab a replacement and continue the psychological torture. Bonus points if you help the kiddos hide the backup instruments of torture around the house, so the parents can never truly be sure that they've gotten rid of them all. Honestly though, you need to practice saying no in front of a mirror. Your brother has 4 kids, not 3. I read that she was doing it for her parents because they begged her to and they're awesome and helped her buy a house, not that she couldn't say no to her sibling. Her parents don't want to babysit, so they're having OP do it, when in reality, both parents and OP should be saying no. OP, I see why you're stuck doing it. Just get the espresso machine and maybe add on Netflix.